Hello, and welcome to the 15th session of a new scientific and astrological paradigms in describing how it is possible to explain the possibility of being in a computer simulation. All spiritual practices teach us that we are spiritual beings inhabiting a material body or an avatar in a simulation. These avatars perform to a script described by the 12 signs. In this session, I will describe the Sagittarius script featuring Jupiter and the number 9. The shortness of daylight approaches a minimum as winter is knocking at the door. This is the time of Thanksgiving with a bounty that was given to us from Mother Earth. Sagittarius is a gift sign and approaches the maximum of the night forces. The ability to encapsulate fire as Birkeland currents, teleportation. The DL has become invisible. 18 years of age offers many options for the adventure-seeking student of life. They are high school graduates, and some are given the opportunity to expand their horizons. Only some are chosen. Good karma. Others are forced into Saturn-like occupations, working to help support a family, etc. The lucky few can travel to faraway places or go to college where they have the freedom to choose any curriculum. Sagittarius is like a college student with the temptation to become a professional student addicted to learning. One day the college student must become a professor and pass the gift on to others. Sagittarius is a fire sign. Fire deals with energy extended from a source in all directions within the universe. The magnitude or direct masculine assault is limited and is defined by Saturn. The struggle against Saturn is akin to being in a traffic jam, and a stop-go reality. The pressures of everyday life, like being stuck in a traffic jam, can be nerve-wracking and negative. Now visualize a helicopter coming overhead with a ladder for you to climb. You vacate the car and ascend vertically into the skies. As you climb, your vision increases. You are seeing more than just the car in front of you. You are seeing the future. The higher you go, the more future you see. This view is only momentarily. Soon you must get back into the traffic jam. But in that moment, looking down at Earth, you touched eternity as time stood still. The final destination is the top of the mountain, the wise, all-knowing guru of your star. How do you feel when that one piece of evidence that throws all your beliefs into the garbage can? You may resist coming back down from that elevation, but you must. Ideally, the view will bring optimism. I traveled so far, and there isn't that much ahead on the road. Stay the course. The vertical ascent is possible because of a harmonious flow of fire and air. Air serves as a vehicle to elevate fire and bring in the faraway places. Air does not put out the fire, nor does fire try to conquer, but to seek answers to his curiosity. The two share a mutual agreement. It is this harmonious flow that leads to an understanding. This is plasma in the dark mode. Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It is the synthesis of the masculine desire to merge, Libra, and the feminine desire to absorb the object, Scorpio. The synthesis is alchemy. The vertical ascent is an understanding. We bring two opposites together and they are alchemically fused with fire, leading to a path towards understanding. Every thought we can have is a half-truth. We hold on to it subconsciously because we are seeking its other half. When we can observe the opposite side free of emotional bias, note we are usually against it because it rains on our ego parade. Then the original thought drops. We are no longer need to hold on or defend it. Now it is complete, and we are free from it. Every time we become free of a cherished thought, we raise one step up the flagpole and away from duality. There are many universes existing simultaneously. Alchemy is the process of moving from one to another. Our realities appear the same, but our choices become freer the higher we go. Ultimately, we want to become choiceless, and this can only be achieved when we let go of all thoughts, all beliefs. Sagittarius is a masculine side. It deals with the masculine drive to drop desires. All desires only bring the future and eventually the death of desire, the feminine force. Only through the death of desire can the vertical ascent be achieved. Only through stilling the mind of all thoughts can true listening be achieved. Sagittarius is the opposite of Gemini. In Gemini, we create the intellect which feeds off facts derived from the five senses, producing our three-dimensional reality. This is the seat of the ego. It is through communication that our ego is demonstrated to the outer world. Gemini is the height of the day forces. In order to be a student, we have to put on a mask to hide our divinity. Just as Jupiter hid his mask, the Sagittarian wears one so as to mingle with others. The mask can also be removed to bring on the fires beneath. This is reflected sometimes in bluntness. This is akin to lightning bolts shot when he gets angry. These lightning bolts can also be given in a positive way, where others may get a rush of fire forces leading to a creative endeavor. This possible energy can be, however, very addictive to others. Sagittarius is the height of the night forces. In Sagittarius, whatever is obvious isn't. In Gemini, we create a mind thought and watch it manifest as an action. In Sagittarius, we still the mind so that there is no action. Gemini is active. It deals with speaking. It is breathing out. Sagittarius deals with listening. It is breathing in. Both are necessary. There is a time for both. Problems arise when we are pretending to listen, but actively inwardly. The Gemini mind refuses to shut up, so there can be no communication. Problems also arise when we are pretending to talk, but are listening inwardly. Here, the Sagittarius mind refuses to shut up. Inwardly, the voices have become so strong that it is difficult to focus on the outer world. We are being seduced by our spiritual side. The ninth house deals with listening. Listening requires a surrender of any prejudice on the quality of the input information. This is the only way possible to be receptive to the whole impression, and not just what feeds our ego. Blocks of impressions are caused by belief systems. Belief systems are facts that were given to us and totally accepted. Our so-called identity depends on them. Beliefs are treasures because they prevent impressions from entering. There is a belief that divides the world, and is the issue of reincarnation. Predominantly, the West believes that we live one life. How vehemently we hold on to this concept will determine the resistance to see its opposite. The opposite side is predominantly in the East, which believes in reincarnation. Alternately, they will reject any evidence to support one life. These are the two extremes. Both are right and both are wrong. Something does die. What dies is the avatar and all the personal memories. They are, however, stored in the programmer's hard drive. It is possible to recall some with the proper software. Those that believe in one life are forced to conclude that the universe is extremely unfair because we are born the slaves to our karma. Those that believe in multiple lives put us in a situation where the future has little or no meaning and no sense of doing anything. This is the trauma in India and those that hold on to the concept of reincarnation. When life has no meaning, the quality of it decreases, leading to poverty. Thought forms are like paint on the leaves of a tree. The thought forms layers the leaf, preventing other impressions from entering. These thought forms that we hold on to create an array of beliefs. By bringing in the opposite, the thought form will cancel out, leaving a void. Nature abhors a vacuum, and consciousness appears out of the ether, filling up with a new paradigm and freedom. The ninth house is the area of avoiding thought forms and attaining freedom as a reward. The sign in the ninth house is the energy to void out, where the opposite needs to be seen. This is the alchemical process of purging the mind. As we proceed from Mars through the asteroid belt to Jupiter, we are proceeding away from the sun towards darkness. The symbolism here is that we are proceeding from ourselves, the center of the universe, into other realms and other stars. We are striving to become part of the collective. It suggests that we transcend our emotional and personal needs for those of society. Personal relationships deal with self. Society is more complicated, and more laws are necessary. The laws of society serve the majority of the group. If we want to become part of that society, then we must obey these laws. This means that we lose part of our personal freedom, forest versus the trees. Law deals with statistics. It states that if there were 8 people to choose from, one would be chosen 1 time out of 8. If the universe responded this way, then everything would be predictable and boring. If there is no violation, there would be no speculation. What Jupiter does is to offer us to violate these laws in our favor. We would gain more winning at the expense of other players. The magnitude, delta H, is of course based on karma. Jupiter has a planetary pair with Saturn and the law. As the cycle here would be expansion, more wins than statistical. At some point, contraction Saturn occurs, leading to where there is more loss than statistical. The timing and the amount, delta H, of the cycle depends on karma. Being lucky gives greater possibilities for power and addictions. Jupiter deals with faith in self. Faith and optimism is necessary to make the laws bend in your favor so that you can win. It is the nature of the ego that despite the odds, they will somehow overcome. So there is a masculine connection to Jupiter in the sense that faith in self would lead to winning and shining. Yet, there is also a feminine component. Surrender of the lower mind is necessary to bring in the energy of Jupiter. If you are going to win, then you must have faith, not lower mind thought forms, which usually are doubts. Remember, the mind is a cesspool of doubts, negativity, and duality. The mind will think one thought 1 minute, its opposite the next. You must hold on to the positive no matter all the negativity that the lower mind will present. There is a confusion regarding the planetary energy of Jupiter when connected to mythology, such as Zeus. Here we see an active figure flying lightning at something. You would expect such behavior from Mars. The other side of Jupiter, however, is when he gets curious and wants to interact with mortals. He dons a mask to hide his divinity. With the mask, he looks normal. His mask is Clark Kent, which hides his Superman divinity. With the mask, he assumes a passive or yin approach, so as to attain stimuli that he wouldn't get when he is Superman. Thus, we add a feminine quality to this masculine side. It is the blending of feminine with the masculine that create a vortex motion showing the elevation to the higher realms and the creation of Berkeland currents. We see this in the traveler. He is not a tourist. When he goes to India, he does his best to look and act like an Indian. He transcends his ego so as to blend with the natives in a strange land. Sometime in the second half of life, Jupiter transcends the lower ego desires and for the higher octaves of faith, the higher self or God. Again, it is the surrender of the lower mind with its duality and negativity so as to embrace the higher self. Jupiter deals in faith in something outside of ourselves, again for the greater good. Eating food is an example of the dynamics of the Jupiter-Mercury dyad. We have faith that the food taken in will be for the greater good. We can look at Jupiter as food outside of ourselves. We need to surrender so that the food can be brought to the place where assimilation takes place. The mercurial process is the assimilation of food that becomes us. Jupiter ensures safe passage. In the same way, it looks optimistically as impressions receive. When we eat food, we do not eat the protein and leave the carbohydrates. We eat it all and trust that our assimilation will bring in valuable and delete the rest as waste. In the same way, we trust that whenever we listen to someone, say a professor giving a lecture, that we listen to every word, assimilate, and trust that whatever gain will be for the greater good. Until we learn this, we will strive to eat more and more of a particular stimuli as if we lack the trust that we can assimilate it. This stimulus is reflected in the house and sign. Overeating leads to disease, and Jupiter deals with overabundant afflictions. Not enough or too much faith leads to archetypal and predictable behavior. Just like the parable of the rich man trying to buy his way into heaven, the outer or masculine side must pass through the eye of the needle, giving up the baggage and the addiction to the outer world before wisdom is attained. Such power is dangerous if used for the ego in the lower world. That is why ego must be purged. There are two important planetary pairs, Mercury-Jupiter dyad as discussed. In this case, Jupiter plays the yin or operator role. Mercury feeds the ego in accumulating facts while Jupiter calls for a surrender by trusting the stimulus. The second dyad deals with Jupiter-Saturn, again discussed. Here Jupiter strives to be expand, allow abundance of stimuli. Saturn plays the yin role and acts to correct when Jupiter goes overboard. Like the Scorpio, the Sagittarius gets addicted to listening. However, his motive is curiosity. Every experience expands his universe, bringing him higher up the flagpole. In short, the Sagittarius wants to play with the gods. When attained, he has no wish to return. The transition from Scorpio to Sagittarius results in the death of the lower desires and the birth of the initiate on the path to consciousness. He strives to become desireless and the hermit on the path. What the Sagittarius ultimately strives for is alchemy. Alchemy brings together a pair of opposites and synthesizes wholeness. In any pair of opposites, there is reality where both are true. A win-win situation. The difference between Sagittarius and Libra is in the goal. Libra desires to merge, usually under the desire for love. Sagittarius desires from wisdom, attained from the experience. Again, achieving this alchemy requires voiding out the lower mind. This void creates a vacuum which fills with information from the programmer's hard drive. Akashic records or the ether, leading to an expansion. The Sagittarius receives these vibrations from the higher or spiritual side, then lifts him to the euphoric pitch where everything in the lower mind becomes boring. Since he is communicating with the gods, it is the reduction of consciousness to be with just mere mortals. The only time he is in this world is to experience something. When completed, he strives to return to the higher elevation. In the world of mortals, he must wear a mask to hide his divinity. The mass allows them to fit in with the mortals. The mass must be broad so as not to allow much detail. If we got too close, the act of observing would distort the observed. He is content to see the forest, not the trees. Focus on the trees would distort them. There is a lot of ego in the Sagittarius grip. The gods are not swayed by mere mortals' emotional displays. He feels superior to mortals because he is above such emotions. This gives him freedom to travel and have many relationships. The gift is the trine to Aries, which is on the cusp of the 5th house. This fiery energy flows to a new rebirth to an innocent outer masculine. The masculine receives the dark forces of wisdom and understanding. This is the initiate that looks beyond the obvious to seek the pearls of wisdom. He is on the path for which transcending the lower mind is the desire. The synthesis of the yang portion of this grip is Aquarius, on the cusp of the 3rd house. What is being learned is the ability to detach from the lower mind. By detaching from Mercury in the lower mind, he can embrace Jupiter and the higher realms. Sagittarius has Gemini in the cusp of 7th house and is the energy he projects out. Thus, to play with the Sag, you must be the Gemini and be a source of information. The dyad in this grip is essentially a non-sexual relationship between a teacher and the student. In one extreme, we have the Gemini who monopolize conversations because they are experts on all subjects. The Gemini will support his belief system with intellectualism. This mind is linear in concept and feels threatened with opposing views. The listener is the student. He wants to learn so as to expand his horizons. He denies belief systems in order to create a void and allow entrance of spirit or an expansion. He realizes that nothing is learned when he is talking, so he listens. The midheaven in this grip is Virgo, which needs protection from Saturn. Without Saturn, the fires of optimism would burn the negativity of the Virgo. This would constitute a situation where everything is okay, but we are optimistic and positive. It is like going to the Red Sea and expecting it to open for us because we are positive and the chosen people. There is a subtle ego in over-optimism. It allows to Sagittarius to break the laws of equal distribution in his favor because he has faith and that he is the chosen one. The fires of optimism can overtake any negative thought. It can produce a situation where all natural laws should be broken because he has faith. The fire of optimism of Jupiter produces a fronty state and very addictive. Saturn acts by removing Virgo from the psyche, leading to an inability to make sound judgments. All avenues look positive. How can he choose? When the Sagittarius reaches this state, he is embracing the yin portion of the script. Communicating with the gods leads to inactivity. Why should I do anything when I already see the outcome? There is a problem with high consciousness because it leads to desire for less in the world. He starts thinking that he is enlightened. This is false samadhi. We see this problem in the East, especially India. Their high consciousness leads them to inactivity. The concept of karma can lead one to such inactivity. To them, we have lived millions of lives. The endless wheel of karma. What is the point of doing anything? In the year cycle, the Sagittarius needs an illusion so as to have a new direction. He needs Pisces, which is on the cusp of the 4th house. Without a dream, the Sagittarius dies of inactivity. Then the Sagittarius needs a fairy tale to cover something in his reality he doesn't want to face. The truth in reality is starting to burn. These are repressed desires. He constantly needs to find new routes to escape. One thing about the world we live in, there are many avenues to escape. They vary in intensity or danger. Sooner or later he has to face the cold, hard fact that he is a mere mortal. Coming down can be devastating. Sagittarius makes excellent ashram junkies. They hang around getting high on the energy. They become totally intoxicated to the vibration, completely abandoning their lower mind. However, things change when the master confronts them on their shadow and what needs to be done. This reality burns so much that they may run away, seeking another ashram. They are spiritual love surfers that ride the crest of a wave but are not prone to work on themselves. When the wave ends, they seek out another one. The yin-winning trine has Pisces to Cancer on the cusp of the 8th house. This combination combines illusions and feelings. Pisces represents the womb and the home for new organisms waiting to be released. The death of the yang portion comes from feelings breaking the connection to the higher self. These feelings come from unfulfilled desires. What is lost is Capricorn on the cusp of the 2nd house and what he values the most. Capricorn deals with being responsible for the lower mind that is necessary for keeping him on this path. The Sagittarius in need loses responsibility to control this mind, so all kinds of illusions can creep in. The ninth forces are a world full of magic. It is easy to rationalize anything in this world, creating superstition. The synthesis for the yin plot is Taurus on the cusp of the 6th house. The energy of innocence and freedom of duality is the transmuting energy which converts the Sagittarius to Gemini. This energy is free of duality and lacks responsibility. The undoing of Sagittarius is the descent back to the lower world in a sea of emotions and lacking responsibility. Thus, Saturn works by removing Virgo and the ability to analyze input, allowing superstitions instead of higher consciousness. He falls from the heights into a sea of emotions. In summary, the Sagittarius script starts with the projecting of Gemini and the lower mind, creating a vacuum filled by wisdom of choicelessness, leading into an elevation in consciousness. When he identifies with the God state, brings on the yin cycle. He starts to lose the ability to analyze input and illusions creep in, leading to a fall into emotions. He must open his lower mind to sort out the confusion. He learns once again that he is a mere human. Saturn is teaching the Sagittarian to open the door to Gemini. Take the trip to the gods and learn wisdom, but come back to earth and teach what you have learned. He is blunt when he is forced back from a visit with the gods. The Sagittarius script is the result of the square between Sagittarius and Pisces. Planets in this square will play out this script as is the trines between Sagittarius, Aries, and Pisces. Like Mercury, the signs are not nearly as important as the house and especially planets in aspect to Jupiter. His relationship to Saturn is important in defining where the individual is within the script. As previously discussed, Jupiter and Saturn have a 20-year cycle where the first 10 years are expansive, followed by 10 of Saturn and contraction. Mercury aspects to Jupiter have much to do about assimilation of wisdom into information that the lower mind can grasp. Stressful aspects indicate a blockage between the two energies, while trine would indicate smooth sailing leading to possible addiction. Neptune aspects to Jupiter lie in the heart of the script, suggesting where this script is played out. The square or opposition would indicate something needing constant responsibility for input. Okay, let's take a chemistry break. Fluoride, or fluorine, 9 is the second daughter and is called Death, or the Terminator. The second sister, the ninth element, has just one electron available for bonding, creating the class called halogen. The halogens are the mirror opposite of group 1 elements, alkalis, and the father. Recall that the father, the alkalis, was hell-bent on dropping his electron anywhere as he could. Well, it's the second daughter that wants them the most. Deadly relationships are the overpowering drive in her chemistry. Again, the difference between her and oxygen 8 is that the latter has two directions, love and hate, while death ends things. Don't take it personally. She is number 9, which leaves no footprint, the Terminator. Molecular fluorine in the gas phase is death to all organisms. She is present as a dimer and is the most powerful oxidizing agent. Nothing much can withstand her. Fluoride gas reactions produce fluoride anion. She has completed her shell and should be content, but she isn't. Fluoride is also death in the ionic form. The ionic realm is, of course, in the world of H2O. Here, fluoride mates with cations, forming salts that play out in the great ocean. However, she wreaks havoc in everything dealing with oxygen, which is how she destroys life. Despite evidence as a poison, neurotoxin, fluoride is still added to drinking water and present in toothpaste. She is also present in Prozac and some antibiotics. Fluoride has caused huge problems for humanity since the beginning of time due to volcanic actions on Earth. Fluoride, or hydrogen fluoride, released from volcanic or meteoroids cause terminal events. The industrial age has brought on huge rise in the levels of fluoride in air, water, and food supply. Fluoride increases in the bones and all the effects of aging, leading to immune system dysfunction and death. Fluoride 9 was a major player and byproduct in the production of nuclear bombs, and a use had to be found, so they stuck it in toothpaste. There was enough fluoride in one tube of sweet and flavored toothpaste to kill an adult. Unfortunately, they had so much that they dumped it in places causing destruction of the earth and to the inhabitants. This has led to extreme levels of abuse towards citizens and their health in the name of attempting to defeat communism. Fluoride is accumulative from even the subtlest level taken in by the human consumption. Because fluorine is the most electronegative element, no trace metals can resist, and which presence within the body keeps these trace metals from being able to do their essential use. This effect leads to a rise in cell damages, higher levels of oxidation like damage to DNA, loss of immune system tolerance. Fluoride damages the thyroid, the hormones due to iodine-like valence effects. It damages the pineal gland and the melatonin serotonin hormones. It contributes to arterial plaque. It associates to heart attacks, kidney damage, etc. If there was one element that was associated with the god of the underworld, death, and hell, it would be fluorine. Fluorine, taken into the stomach, is converted by the stomach acid to hydrofluoric acid, which is highly absorbed into the body and highly retained. It is a cumulative effect. DuPont is another chemical company with deadly karma. DuPont made the fluoride for the UF6 used to make the bomb, creating an ecological disaster from the Manhattan Project. It went on to wreck children's young lives via incorporating it in toothpaste. They made Teflon from chemicals they knew were poisons. They made freon, which go on to wreck the global environment due to fluorine being so close in mass to air that it triggers and builds up in the upper atmosphere. Here it absorbs high levels of its radiation and contributes to global warming. Fluoride is the queen of oxidizing agent. She is the upper limit and how many electrons may be accepted. She is on the edge of the prime. Go further and time stops. Fluorine and oxygen doesn't communicate, period. Fluoride just blows her out of the arena. A favorite trick used by the controllers is getting the players to fight a war. Whatever is amongst themselves or with other species, they always go along with it. We saw the ramifications of the war on drugs. The halogen compounds complete the controller's domination on growing food. First, the chemists intoxicated the farmers with fertilizers to make it easier to produce foods. It produced synthetic foods, a fixer photograph of the real thing. Since there are no life forces in these plants, they have no immune system. They are fair game for bacteria. The scientists made a bargain with the devil as a means of saving the synthetic plants. These ingenious chemicals are called insecticides. DDT was the magic bullet sent by the scientists to exterminate the scourge affecting synthetic foods. Every year, more and more farmers bought into the illusion as a means of getting rich. The symbiotic relationship between NPK plus halogens compounds grew in concert. So the CSP created a two-headed monster, incorporating synthetic chemicals into the food chain, creating plastic people marked for disease. The game of one-upmanship created a multi-billion-dollar industry by creating new poisons to keep ahead of the insect mutation rates. This war has about the same chance of success as the war on poverty, terror, or drugs. Modify the halogen compounds and you make new poisons for bigger game, undesirable people. These were used in World War I. Since then, the civilized countries decided that they were off limits as a war club. But did they? Fluoride is the greatest chemical changer when covalent, sharing, bonded, but the greatest fixer in water world as an anion. Fluoride is the second order mixer mark, despite the enormous task following oxygen. She is the terminator, leaving no finprints. As a poison, fluoride became an important cog in the Armageddon Express of thinning the herd. In the chemical world, the halogens start with fluoride and death. The next in the series is chlorines, 17. She constitutes the killing in the covalent bonding, such as DDT. However, in ionic form, she is essential for organic life. She is the essential anion which constitutes the ocean. Salts are necessary in water that doesn't move as in rivers. Salts increase a chemical field for the flow of electricity and bringer of information from the programmer's hard drive. This is given to all the inhabitants. There is an important lesson from analysis of salt in that two extremes, poisons, combine to give a substance essential for life processes. However, fluoride is the exception. She is total death, whether in ionic or covalent form. 10 is the incarnate of the planetary energy of Jupiter and would reflect his properties. 10 in the metallic form is plain looking, hiding his godlike character and showing its similarity to Jupiter or Sol. He knows the limits of fire, so he hides his fire in a plainness, again plasma in the dark mode. In cold conditions, tin metal transforms spontaneously into another form, a phenomenon known as tin pest. Napoleon's army lost their pants due to tin buttons that crumbled in the cold. This is what you would expect if you heated the metal instead of cooling. Moreover, if the metal has the opposite effect if you heat it, it acts like you're cooling it. Tin wears a mask of whatever is obvious. It's the opposite. Tin gives off a strange screeching sound when it is bent. This is because tin has a considerable inner strength, but its mask or outer layer is weak. Because tin is relatively weak, it is not put to structural uses unless alloyed with other metals, such as bronze, pewter, etc. Because tin has successfully hit his divinity, he has learned team playing with other elements making alloys. He is the captain that can shine light onto his subordinates, bringing out their inner best. 9 and Sagittarius players are known for seeing the forest but not the trees. They are the gateway to the upper mind. For something to change, something has to die. This is the realm of glory. What dies is the trees, the lower mind, and the lower world. The symbol of 9 deals with a spiral elevating to spirit. Day 0. The archer shoots the arrows to another dimension, new territory for exploration. 9 deals with rounding off, completing a cycle, and rising above it. The 9 walks like nobility, hard to reach, seen above and tend to float above the small-minded issues that can be so upsetting to others. When circumstances require, he can be a powerful force, strong enough to take over and bend others to his will. She changes your mind. As for matters of the heart, the 9 is not particularly romantic. She will not allow herself to become vulnerable. The most telling attributes of the 9 is the always subtle and hard to pinpoint sense that there is more to her than meets the eye. The 9 has a dark side, condescending, arrogant, cold, and apathetic towards the suffering of others. It happens when she perceives herself to have been the victim of an injustice. The Hermit card reflects that a choice has been made. You now realize that the truth and understanding you seek is within yourself and not in the distractions of the outer world. In this session, I dealt with endings of lower mind issues so as to bring out with the gods in a programmer's hard drive. In the next session, double digit 10. The unknowable 0 is introduced as described in the Capricorn script. Please subscribe, tell your friends. Until then, be happy.